Okay, thank you, Lorraine. And let me just bring my slides up here. Okay, by now everybody knows what this is. It's an image that's kind of etched in our brains forever. And so we're pretty well into this now. And I want to talk about a few things and review one of the things from last week. Everybody's going through a range of emotions right now, and it's important to understand what this is. It's perfectly normal, and it's very similar to what people go through when they lose a loved one, when somebody passes away, sometimes called the mourning curve. When we first found out about this, there was some shock and denial. This is only going to last for 2 weeks. It's a hoax, you know, whatever. Hey, I'm only 22, so I'm not going to be affected. All those things. And then once the realization set in, there was a lot of anger and frustration, followed by depression in many cases. And only when you get past the depression can you start to accept what's going on and then solve the problem. So as business coaches, what we're focused on is getting business owners to get through this whole curve and maybe even bypass the depression part and get right into acceptance and problem solving, which is where we can help businesses get traction. Okay, so here's another curve, and the idea here is the whole issue of control. Are you in control of your business right now or not? And it's a slippery slope. Businesses, we've been telling businesses for a couple of months now that they need to pivot, and so that's what these are. The business can go through various phases if they're not one of those businesses that's already thriving, like cleaning companies and delivery firms and grocery stores and things like that. But the longer you wait to make your pivot to go to the turnaround, the less you are in control. And so what we're doing is by helping businesses pivot, we're helping them to gain control and then be able to plot a course or a path to being able to thrive. Okay, and then this is another one, is a repeat from last week, but it's important to look at. It's kind of a time element down here on the bottom. This is the months that we've gone through. We were doing pretty good in the first quarter. Then COVID-19 came around. There was a lockdown. And for many businesses, either total closure or certainly a significant drop in sales. And it's at this point that now we're starting to see the light of easing restrictions. There are some things going on already, particularly with retail stores and with some of the beaches and so forth. But what we're telling businesses is that now is the time for you to plot your trajectory for coming out of this. It's going to end. We don't know when, we don't know how long. We're starting to get a better idea of the schedule, and it'll be bit by bit. It'll be county by county, and it will be the counties with the least amount of risk going first, and followed by the ones with medium risk, followed by the ones with lots of risk. Unfortunately, Galveston County, I believe, will be in a high risk category just because of the number of incidences, but we'll wait and see with that. But the point here is this. In the military, there is artillery and big guns on ships and so forth, and trajectory is everything, and you need to have the right trajectory to hit your mark. So if you're aiming too low, like this purple line here, you may experience cash flow challenges and may unfortunately reach closure. The current estimates are about 30% of businesses are not going to be able to pivot or not want to pivot, not be open to change, and may end up in a situation like this. Hopefully all of our businesses in Galveston and in Galveston County are going to be able to pivot their business, readjust their marketing, and have a higher trajectory to for the future. So this is the only point, that when you fire a cannon, you can't change the trajectory once it's fired. You have to set that when you fire the cannon, and then it goes where you aimed it. And it's the same with businesses. And so it's you need to find what you're aiming at now, which is a plan, and then get the proper trajectory to get there. And this is also another time study. And what I will say is that we put this out first about a month ago, and the star here that says "You are here," we are actually pretty much through phase 2. You can see where the arrow is at the top, And so what we should be doing now is taking a look at our marketing strategies, our collateral preparation, doing drip feed marketing, and making sure that our vision and mission, and as well as our products and services that we have, if they need to be adjusted, now is the time to do it and plan for that. Get staff trained, make sure that your supply chain is in place and so forth for that to happen. So we are actually about here. The next phase will be warming up, which is you're calling your staff back, you're getting ready to go, you're ready to open up, maybe you're partially open now, and be prepared to sprint, because when the green light goes on, there's going to be a scramble. There's a lot of consumers out there who have gone without, and they're going to want to have again. And so we're looking at possibly shortages. There's going to be a lot of business who have been doing great for the last 2 months that are going to suffer a little bit. But in any case, there's going to be a scramble for market share, a scramble for customers, and be ready to sprint. And then phase 5 here is when we're kind of going back to whatever the new normal is and being able to compete and go forward. So I wanted you to see this in these 5 phases and where we are right now. And so the moral of the story is here, if you're running a race in track, you don't wait for the starter's gun to go off to put on your running shoes. You do it beforehand, you get warmed up, and then when the gun goes off, you're ready and you're sprinting and getting out ahead of the pack. Okay, with that, I will hand it over to Amy, and we're going to talk a little bit about current SBA and some other business system issues. Amy?
Great, thank you, Mike. I'm going to share my screen with everyone. So we're just going to do a brief SBA update today, and then we'll go through some of the other business solutions that are out there for small business owners. So just a little bit, I'm Amy Reed. I'm with the Galveston County Small Business Development Center. We are a nonprofit who helps small businesses start and grow. And during COVID-19, one of our main purposes has been to be an information resource, to push information from the government to the small business owners and to assist through those application processes. So a few updates with what's going on. As you all know, the PPP and the EIDL loans have run out of funds for the time being. Congress is scheduled to meet today. Hopefully they will be able to get a quorum and be able to vote and pass the new measure that would put another 300 to 310 billion. I've seen 2 different numbers on that into the PPP fund, and then 50 billion into the EIDL funds. Another article that I read that came from Congress, or not from Congress, but from the SBA, was saying that they are looking at actually divvying the money up a little differently, where small community lenders are going to be getting a certain chunk, and then the large banks like Bank of America, Chase, those type of banks will be getting a different chunk of those funds to make sure that small businesses are being serviced in the way that it was intended. If you submitted your EIDL loan application before 4/16, don't worry, it's still being processed. They have shut the website down for new applications until the new bill is passed, but don't worry, your EIDL is still being processed. We're told that it's about a 3-week process. One indicator that we have heard about to know that you have actually been assigned to a caseworker is if you notice that your credit has been pulled. So the first thing that will happen when the SBA starts to process your loan and you're assigned to a caseworker is they will pull your credit. So if you belong to something like Credit Karma or the Discover FICO, that they have those 2 free services where you get an alert anytime there's an inquiry on your credit, that's a good indicator that you have now been assigned to a caseworker, and you should be hearing from someone at the SBA within the next few days. Where can you get an EIDL loan application update? We have the 800 number and the email address. I will tell you that if you have not been assigned to a caseworker, the only thing they can tell you is they've received your application. After that point, if you've been assigned to a caseworker, then they can forward you to that caseworker, but you'd be getting an email with their direct line anyway at that point. Can you still apply for the PPP? I talked to a few lenders yesterday who are still taking applications because they're getting ready for this next round of funding. If you're already in the queue, I talked to several clients over the past few days too that said they received some sort of notification from their lender saying, you know, we have your paperwork, you didn't make the first round, but we have everything we need for the second round, so you're going to be submitted as soon as that opens up. So if you applied for the PPP and you haven't heard from your lender, just reach out to them and make sure that that's where you are and they're not waiting on anything. So as soon as those funds are released, you're in that queue. It is first come, first serve. Also, another thing about the PPP that a lot of people don't know is you can apply at multiple lenders. So if you bank at, say, one of the large banks like Chase or Bank of America, some of those larger institutions, there's volume. You're competing against, you know, so many customers that they have. Think about our small community banks. Not all of them are servicing non-members, but there are some in the area. You can call us for a list of those lenders and we'd be happy to pass that on to you. And just one other CARES Act update that I want to give is a lot of people don't know that you can take up to $100,000 from your 401k or your Roth, and you're exempt from that 10% withdrawal penalty that is normally there. And of course, no one wants to do that, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to stay afloat. So just wanted to mention that. And now I'm going to start talking about some technology. What's next for your business? Think about where your business was, where you want your business to go, and maybe some processes and systems that can make that a little more streamlined and more efficient. So as you know, we are all participating in online conferencing. We're doing it right now. And as we were talking about before this started, many of us are doing a couple a day. The great thing is you can either go live like now, or you can watch it later. But there's a few things that you should know. If you are planning to host workshops or meetings, you need to know about Zoom, FaceTime, and GoToMeeting. Those are the three biggest ones. There's also Microsoft Teams, and there's a few others out there, but these are the ones that I'm seeing most of the webinars I'm attending are working through. I've attached in the PowerPoint that you're going to get from the chamber is how-to videos. So if you click on these, there's some good videos that I found on YouTube that I think will help people. If you have Zoom, the number of people that you can have on your Zoom is determined according to your plan. So they have, I think, 4 different levels of plans. So the length of time that your webinar can be and how many people can be on that plan are determined there. FaceTime is free. It's on any Apple device, whether it's your phone, iPad, or one of their laptops. And you can have up to 32 people. This is what my family and I use for Sunday dinners. There's GoToMeeting. And this is a lot like Zoom, again, where the plans determine what your parameters are for people and time. So what should you do before starting a video conference call? Lighting is the most important thing. You want to try to have soft, direct light, but when possible, avoid yellow. I know in my house, I have the warm bulbs, so finding somewhere that doesn't have that yellow light is really hard for me, but I personally have offset it with a very inexpensive video light with white light, and then covered that with a white pillowcase to try to soften the light a little bit. Things like that work. They also have small ring lights that you can use. Anything that's inexpensive, you can even take a regular lamp you have and maybe put a white light bulb in it and just have that right in front of your face, back behind the camera, so that it's shining on you. Try not to sit in front of a window unless you also have a light in front of you so that your face is not in shadow. And then think about your background. Just try to avoid cluttered backgrounds. It doesn't need to be white like mine. That's just kind of where the space worked out for me. And then I try to have some signage showing who we are and what we do. That doesn't apply for everyone who's attending webinars. Just make sure that the background isn't distracting. Try to find a quiet place. We can't all control what may be happening outside. Maybe a dog starts barking outside or the lawn crew shows up, but try to get somewhere away from other noises that you know are going to be there so that you can both either participate or be engaged during the webinar. The camera height is really important. You want to have it slightly or directly right at your hairline so you're looking up just a little bit. It's just a little bit more flattering. And you want to try to fill the frame. So you don't want to have the camera right in front of you, but you don't want to have it so far back that people can't see you either. Get comfortable. A lot of people are showing up in business attire on top and pajamas on the bottom. So whatever makes the meeting easier for you to enjoy, feel free. And set your meetings. You can go into your settings on most of these applications, set your mic and your video to be off when you enter the meeting, just so that you can get yourself set before being engaged. And then if you're hosting a Zoom or anything like that, like we talked about before, to avoid those Zoom bombers, you do want to set up a password in a waiting room just to protect yourself and those participating. And then record your webinars so that other people can watch those later. And I've attached a clip here with some tips on this as well. All of my slides are going to have a lot of clips, or not clips for you, but links, so that you can click and learn more about all of these softwares we're going to be talking about. And at the bottom of each slide, there's a YouTube video talking a little bit more about either maybe why you need to have it, or an article about some things to think about if these are for you. These softwares are not for every business, and not every business does not need all these different softwares. The intention of this is not to teach you how to use them, but to tell you what's out there, so to get you thinking about what might benefit your business. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Customer Retention Manager software, also known as CRM. And basically this software is to help you log any touch points you have with clients. It's their phone number, their email. I have also used my CRM to put things in like daughter Stephanie is at college, or mention she loves the Caribbean, those sort of things. Those are talking points. So if you are someone, you're reaching out to try to gain business or build relationships, those sort of things, knowing those little things are a great way to start a conversation. How's your daughter doing at college? Even if you don't remember the name, remember she's at college, or check those if you know you have a meeting so you kind of brush up before you go. Some great ones that have been around for a while and that I've personally worked with other clients are Salesforce, Freshworks, and Zendesk. All of them are a little different. They have different functions. They look different, and they're all at different price points. So you just need to know about your return on investment when you're using these types of softwares. And again, there is an article at the bottom. Social media management software, also known as SMMS. This is to manage your social media. For a lot of businesses, we recommend that you do 1 or 2 platforms, do them very well. And then once you master those, if you want to add another on, that's fine. But we recommend not to spread yourself too thin. But if you have the type of business that needs to be on multiple platforms, these applications are very good for that. Hootsuite, Buffer, Sprout Social, and Later is really starting to get a lot of traction too. Again, they all look a lot different, but what it helps you with is you can cross-post against, say, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can't do Snapchat on them that I have seen yet, but a lot of the other platforms, even Reddit, and it's one message, but it goes out to all platforms. So it saves a lot of time. You can schedule them out. You can schedule out, I think on most of them, for up to like 90 days. Some of them are 6 months. So a little bit of streaming. We do still think that organic posts are best, but if you always know you're going to have a Monday post and it's about this, or a Thank You Thursday post, that sort of thing, then this is great for that, because you can schedule those out in advance and save yourself some time. Business management systems. So the great thing about business management systems is they manage everything. Now, all of these softwares that I have listed are different. They all have different aspects that they focus on. Some of them focus more on the scheduling aspect. Some focus more on the invoicing. They all have reporting, which is great. A couple of them have a little bit more project management to them. So depending on your business, you would want to evaluate these, you would want to vet them and see what might be the best fit for you. But for someone who just wants one system that does a little bit of everything and gives them some information, but maybe isn't as robust as having an independent system for a specific thing like the CRM and all of that, then this might be a good option. Monday is a little bit more of a team management system. It has a lot of project management to it. Kajabi is probably my favorite of all of these, but they are all a little bit different and will be something for everyone. Bookkeeping systems. If there is one software that you should have for your business, this is it. I think a lot of small businesses, especially through this process, needing to get financials together to apply for loans or to even know how long they can go without the income or where their break even is, they are determining that they need bookkeeping systems if they didn't already. QuickBooks, of course, is the most well-known. We do recommend desktop instead of online due to the price and the robustness of the program. FreshBooks is great. Xero, also very user-friendly. They have just different looks and a little different reporting features, but you get the same reports from all of them. Wave, I was just talking to a client yesterday, and he was telling me he had no books. He didn't have the budget to have QuickBooks. He was a little technology scared. And we talked about Wave. Wave is free unless you have payroll. He didn't have payroll. So I kind of walked him through the process, and he's going to start during this downtime, start entering all of his books for January. So going forward, he'll at least have books, and it puts out the profit and loss statements and everything he needs. And then some businesses use Sage as well. Sage doesn't have a mobile app to it, and it's not, it has a little bit different reporting features, but there's a lot of good things about all of these programs. The main thing is you need some sort of bookkeeping for your business. Email marketing. Email marketing is one of the best ways to touch your clients. I'm sure you all have seen all the emails. Everybody's trying to stay in contact with their clients during this time. Everyone is reaching out, but it's a great way to tell them about special events. It's a great way to push information. It's just a great way to keep in contact with your clients. Some of the most popular are Constant Contact, MailChimp. I've used both of these for businesses. And also some websites like Wix have a back end where you can have your email from there. So if you are hosting your website on Wix, you may look at adding this app into your website so that anytime when someone visits your website, or you can enter emails too, it's all in one place. So you're already paying for it, you might as well use it. And then Drip is another one that has emerged just recently into the market. So it's just a really great way to stay in contact with your clients. A little bit about Google Ads. It's also known as Google AdWords. It's really important for your business. If you are trying to get your business to the top of page 1, this is about the only way to do it quickly. So as far as, you know, organic's always best. You always want to be organic and be at the top of page 1, but that takes a lot of time and effort, and you have to have amazing content. So with Google Ads, one of the biggest things I talk to people about is knowing your break even, like I mentioned a couple of times earlier, and your return on investment. You have to know what you are able to spend, what you're going to get back out of it. And if you don't know that going in, you need to have some sort of tracking system so that you can determine it as you go. You need to do some keyword research. You need to be very specific when you're placing Google Ads, what you're going to do. And you only pay when somebody clicks on your ads. So that's something also good. A lot of people don't realize though that Google Ads is a bidding system. So if you're in one of the industries where you're highly competitive, you may end up spending $4 per click, to where if you're in a less competitive industry, it may be just right at $1. So something to keep in mind, know your industry, watch your pricing, and you can also target how you want those ads to work based off of demographics and time, that sort of thing. And then you just want to make sure that your funnel is strong so that you can keep those costs low, because what happens is if someone clicks on a ad for you at the top of a page, they go to your website and they bounce right off, Google's going to charge you more. If they stay on your page, look around your page, or if they convert to a customer and buy something off of your page, Google charges less. They want those high conversion rates for their ads, and they are willing to reward it through costs. I'm going to let Mike take over and stop sharing now. And we will have questions and answers at the end.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And let me just pull up my second set of slides here. Okay, so the theme for this week is leveraging technology, and I'm going to talk specifically about some marketing. And the key thing to keep in mind is that the marketing landscape has changed. It has changed very quickly, just in the last month or two, and it's gone to a much more virtual environment. People are getting used to using things like Zoom, as well as searching for things on the internet and being on social media. Social media has just blown up in the last couple of months, and you post something and right away it's pushed down on the list because there's so many other people posting. So we're going to talk about some steps to pivot your marketing, and it's going to be important to do this very quickly because things are moving fast, and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The markets are going to open up and you need to be ready. So you need to shift your strategy. That's step number one. Much more of an inbound marketing focus. The days of yellow pages and print ads and billboards and things like that, those things are becoming basically old hat, and everything's becoming digital. So if you're not occupying digital space for your marketing, you need to do so as quickly as possible. Okay, the second is shifting your message. So I mentioned the range of emotions people are going through right now, and it's important that that you take a look at your advertising, at what you're putting on social media and so forth, and take a look at making sure that you're empathizing, that you're engaging more personally with your clients and customers, and that there's some element of education in there. So it's come to help and give versus sell and ask. And by that I mean people have to get value out of what you're doing, and so make sure that your message is giving them some value and attracting your customers and potential customers. Step three is updating your website, and Amy touched on this, and I will just reinforce that if you have a website that hasn't been updated in a period of time, or even in the last several months, you need to do that right now. You should be updating your content regularly. The more that you update, the more attractive you are to the search engines. And build your SEO, which is search engine optimization, via content and not tricks. The algorithms are constantly changing, and as soon as you figure out a trick, it's probably not going to be effective because of the algorithm changing. So SEO is what attracts people to your website. Make sure that your headers and footers have all the correct information. You can add a blog or a vlog. We'll talk about that in a second. The more content, the more new content, and the more original content you can put on your website, the better. Make sure that you're tagging and adding description and page titles and no duplicates. So every page should look a little bit different to the search engines. And you're linking to all your social media sites, because that also adds content to your SEO. And don't duplicate content. The search engines hate that. Don't plagiarize. If you're going to provide links to somebody else's site or somebody else's information, make sure that you're giving them you're giving them the authority. So in other words, you're giving them credit for that information. And the imagery needs to be fresh. It needs to reflect your marketplace. Now is not a good time to put a lot of pictures out there of people in large groups or dancing or having fun together, because that's not what people are experiencing. Okay, and step up your content. So I mentioned blogs or vlog. The more narrative that you can get out there, the more original content, the better. Make sure you're doing social media posts. I have up until now been doing posts about 3 times a week on my 2 platforms. I have a total of 4 sites. You probably need to do it more often now. And we're seeing that where sometimes people are posting 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, and that's going to become the norm. Use live videos and maybe some interviews when possible. Search engines love videos, and there's a lot of content there, but again, it does have to be original, and interviews as well. When you're posting videos, they don't need to be, 1-hour movies. Whoops. Let's see here. Okay, they don't have to be 1-hour, movies or novels. That 1 or 2 minutes catches people's interest, and you've noticed yourself when you go through social media. When you go on somebody's website, the video is the first thing you go to, and it's what catches your attention. Add case studies if possible. It's very relevant to now. You can host a webinar like we're doing right now. You can also provide useful tools like checklists and tip sheets and job aids, those kinds of things that people can have as a takeaway when you're either from your postings or from the webinars you're doing. Okay, blog versus vlog. Okay, this is something that more and more people are doing. There are some tips towards making it more attractive, and it starts with the headline that you put in there. Make sure it's something that's going to bring people in, that's timely, and that will create an emotional response as opposed to somebody just looking for news. They should be between 800 and 1,500 words. Break up the text whenever you can with subheadings and sublines. Make sure that your keywords has keywords and has search phrases, so things that people are looking for, they can go through SEO, they can go straight to your blog as opposed to having to go through your website. And make sure it's conversational, make sure the graphics are cool, and make sure it has a strong call to action, because that's really the bottom line while you're doing this. It's a form of advertising, and they need to know how to get a hold of you. How can they buy something from you if they want to? So make sure, it's fun to put a lot of information out there and have a blog, but make sure there's a call to action so that there's some way for them to get back to you. And it also make sure it contains relevant links, always giving credit to the author. Okay, adding videos to your mix, I already said that they should be short unless it's meant to be very long. You can host a live interview. People are doing that more and more. At Action Coach, we're doing several of that type of thing. We call it drive time, and it shows a coach driving along in a car. It lasts for a minute or two. It's very conversational, and it draws people's attention because it's different. It's some guy driving a car. You can have a regular podcast. More and more people are doing that, particularly if you have a specific subject matter that's relevant to your industry. It's a good way to communicate and keep people up to date. Do daily check-ins and tip talks, and so on and so on. Just make sure it's authentic and it's overstaged. Vary your lengths. And use the analytics whenever you can. Check for the engagement spikes. And when you do a video, do it based on not what you want, but what your customers respond to. You may think something that's important. If your clients don't, it doesn't matter. So keep in mind the whole concept of WIFM, what's in it for me. That's really what drives people to look at any of your content, including your videos. I wanted to make you aware of a program that I-45 Now is offering. You can put up to a 2.5-minute video on their site at no charge. Normally there's a fee for that. They're only doing it for a short period of time. It's specifically for businesses in the I-45 corridor, and which includes all of the cities in Galveston County. And so the link is down here. It's a bit.ly link, by Bay Biz I-45 Now. And you can get copies of these slides later on, and you'll be able to get the link from that. So it's a very good deal. This is a very popular and well-viewed platform, and so we're advising all of our clients to take advantage of this 2.5 minutes video. Okay, make sure that you're refreshing and reviving your social media. As Amy said, there's a ton of platforms out there. You don't need to be on all of them. Probably 2 to focus on. There's a 90-10 rule. 2 platforms get you 90%. Gets 90% of your attention, and so pick 2. For my own firm, I use Facebook and LinkedIn because that is where most of my clientele is going to be. If you have a business that attracts a younger crowd, high school, college age, you might consider Snapchat and some of the other newer platforms. But it's based on the type of business you have and the type of clientele you want to attract. Make sure that what you post is shareable. Use the right hashtags and descriptors so that you are maximizing your SEO. Always link your social media sites to your website. There's so many businesses out there that have only one or the other, only have social media or only have a website. And for full engagement, you should probably have you should really have both of those. Again, to create a strong call of action, create some urgency, ask questions, pose challenges, make it interesting, engage the people that are on your social media, and be sure to measure your progress. Okay. Facebook has a feature where you can boost your posts or your ads. This is becoming quite popular and quite effective, actually. But you need to set a budget for that, and you need to carefully target your audience. Keep it simple, not too much text. Again, a strong call to action, and link to an event or a website. There is a price to this, and normally Facebook is free, but it is well worth your while. And just make sure that your branding is strong and people know who you are and how to get a hold of you when you do this. Database building. If you don't have a database, maybe now is time to do it, because one of the key factors in surviving through this pandemic period is going to be keeping in touch with your customers. And if you don't know who they are, that's going to be very difficult. Amy mentioned email campaigns. I'm going to talk about those in a second, but it's very difficult to have an email campaign if you don't have a database of your customers, and if that database does not contain emails. The problem here is that a lot of, particularly retail establishments, they don't collect your email when you're there. And most point of purchase systems, they don't have that. So you may have noticed if you go to Home Depot or some of these other big box stores, they will ask you, would you like an emailed receipt? Well, that's partially for your convenience and partially so that they can get your email address, and then they can get a hold of you later on. So the point is that if you don't know who your customers are, it's very important. It's very difficult to keep track of them. All you can do is put out information and hope that they contact you with a good database that's clean, that's kept up to date constantly, and that has emails and also their email preferences. You'll have a much better way to manage your relationships with your customers. Okay, email marketing designed to get to know your audience, and again, personalize as much content as you can. So a good email marketing system will allow you to address it to an individual instead of dear customer or dear business owner. Consider the frequency and the times of day to maximize open rate, and keep in mind with the database issue as well as with email marketing that there are regulations around what kind of data that you can have and store and how you need to protect it. Would shy away from any kind of tracking of things like social security numbers or any kind of medical information or anything like that. So when you do your email, you need to get through and not go into their trash. And there are so many spam filters out there. You need to make it clear and in your heading who you are and what you want. Otherwise, there's a good chance you're going to end up in spam if they're not used to receiving things from you. Okay, we've been recommending that every business as a part of the new digital marketing, take a look at your website and see what needs to be renewed. All that content has to be fairly new and changed frequently in order to attract the search engines. That doesn't mean, and if you're adding a new product or service, many businesses are pivoting. They're doing business in a different way. When they want customers to know about that. You don't necessarily have to revamp your entire website. You can create just a landing page. So if you're running a campaign, the link that you provide for that will go to a landing page. You'll be able to track your traffic through that, see how effective your campaign is. And you can link to the rest of your website, or you can link to for example, if you're putting on an event, you can link to a enrollment site like Eventbrite or another one. And but it makes it a lot simpler to functionally have as a sales funnel your website and bring clients in and then direct them to where they need to go. Just make sure, once again, it's clear, compelling copy. If you're running a specific campaign, advertising campaign, and you're creating a landing page, make sure that the graphics match so that when if they're answering an ad somewhere else, like a Google ad, and then they come to your landing page, they recognize it immediately as they're being in the right place. So be sure to standardize all your graphics and your visuals. And again, test and update it regularly. Use the analytics features so that you can see exactly what the traffic is through, so you can figure out what your return on investment is on what you're doing. And last is learn Google AdWords. If you're not doing this, you probably should. As Amy said, this is the #1 way to get to the top of first page. And that is what we're talking about in all search engine optimization. Whenever we're talking about anything online, you want to be on the first page. There's a lot on the first page already. There's the Google ads, there's the Google map, there's the listing of local businesses that are ranked, and so on and so forth. You need to be on the first page or you're going to lose a lot of opportunities for business. And I'm not going to say too much more about this other than you need to connect with Google Analytics. So again, you can track, you can test and measure exactly how effective your campaigns are being. Okay, Zoom tip of the week. Something that I've seen quite a bit, and I do a lot of webinars, is that when it's time for somebody to speak, if they're muted, it's kind of hard to find the mute button. And there's some delays and so forth, and it's kind of embarrassing. And so here's a neat trick that if you're on a webinar, you're muted and you want to say something, all you need to do is press your space key. So imagine it's the microphone of a CB or something that with a handheld microphone, you have to press the button and hold it down to talk. It's the same thing, excuse me, with Zoom. When you want to say something, you press the space bar down, you speak, and then let it up and you go back to mute. So Zoom tip of the week. So just about to finish up here, and we'll have some time for questions. If you do have questions, please put those into the chat box and Amy and I will answer them. So just to finish up, during this period of time, no matter what kind of business you have, don't stop marketing. Do more marketing, and maybe make sure that you're doing it in a different way so that you're still attracting customers. And keep in mind that the future is online and digital. If you've got a 12-month plan or a 90-day plan, if you're one of my clients, you have this already. If not, maybe you've got one that you put together, but it's time to update it. Whatever you thought 2020 was going to look like at the beginning of the year, it's not going to look like that. And so now is the time to update that. Shift how and where you market. This is what we call the pivot, and everything has changed, and we don't know that everything's going to go back to the way it was. And so make sure that you're shifting. I have a client who has a hairstyle salon, and of course it was closed because of the restrictions. And to continue revenue stream, people were calling and saying, well, I had my hair colored and I'm starting to get roots. What do I do? And so she came up with a way to have color kits to kind of keep people away from the roots until the shop can open back up. And people were also calling about things like, well, I'm out of shampoo, I need some conditioner. And so she worked out a way and put an e-commerce site on her website. And so now she's selling things online. Her suppliers are direct shipping right to retail customers, so she doesn't even have to handle it. And it's working so well that even when things open up and things go back to whatever the new normal is, she will probably continue that part of it because it's working so well as another revenue stream for her business. Shift your message. Things have changed. Recognize that there is a new normal, a new reality, and shift your marketing messages appropriately to address that. And you'll have to reallocate your budget to new channels, much more towards digital than print ads and things like that. And always, when you're putting a new process in place, test, measure, and adapt. So for your business, after all we've talked about today, think about the 5 things that you need to do now. Write them down and make that the start of your plan for reopening. Okay, so I only want to leave you with this thought. You matter and we care. The Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center, and Action Coach are all working day and night to make sure that no business is left behind. And it's our goal to make sure that every business needing help will have it. So we are here to help businesses however we can. This is our contact information for both Amy and me. And we're happy to help however we can. And with that, I think we'll hand it back to Lorraine and we can take some questions.
Okay, well, thank you. I was practicing that mute, space bar. It doesn't work on Mac. You have to, and it gave me a quick message and I missed it. It's space command something or other, but anybody know? So if you have a Mac,
I'm on a Mac and it worked for me. You have to hold it down while you're talking and then really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that's what I did wrong. Okay, I'll try it later. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Amy, that information you gave at the beginning about the update was really good. And then some of the business stuff too. And then Mike, your information on social media was excellent as well. So anybody have any questions for Joe or Stacy or anybody else have any questions for them? I think the only question I had was I tried to do a Facebook Live yesterday on a meeting and I didn't succeed. So I must have done something wrong. I'll go back and try again.
Could have been bandwidth because if you're on Zoom, that's already using a lot of bandwidth. And then if you try to go Facebook Live too. So if you didn't have a good connection, that could have been the issue.
Could have been. Okay. All right. I don't think anybody has any more questions. So thank you guys. We'll stop the recording now and then we will share the recording with you guys through our COVID newsletter probably tomorrow.
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
You bet. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Bye.